Good morning. Good morning. All right, well, welcome to this Unitarian Universalist Church, which includes our congregation up in Birmingham and our congregation here in Tuscaloosa, and of course we do have folks online. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are today and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, please know that you are welcome here. To all who are here this morning, welcome home. We have a couple of announcements from my mouth. I want to tell you that, we've been handing out a calendar at the beginning of every month at the front. So in an effort with our Green Sanctuary to sort of cut down on paperwork, I'm going to be sending that out as a PDF on Newsnet tomorrow. So you'll all have it in your hand, and I'm also sending it to Sarah so she can possibly put it up on the web. So the calendar is there. Also want to remind you that we have dinner out on Wednesday. This time we're going to the venue at 6 o'clock, and that is on Watermelon Road on the other side of Sokol Park. There's three kind of places there, and I'm not really sure which one will be open. We might get ice cream, or we might get tacos, or we might get barbecue. I don't know. Whatever it is. 6 o'clock Wednesday. Anybody else have an announcement? No announcements? All right. Kieran got a haircut. I just noticed. All right. The prelude prepares us for worship.
Anyway, Summertime Sadness. Oh, okay.
Please rise in body or spirit for the lighting of the chalice. Look around the room at our tapestry of faith, depicted through Holly Hilton's beautiful quilt, or Holly Hilton's beautiful quilts. I assume those are the ones up in Birmingham. Or if you're at home, gather a quilt to hold. In a patchwork quilt, each piece of fabric contains a story in itself: where, when, and how it was made, what other garment or fabric it once was part of, who created and touched the fabric. Sewn together, the quilt collectively tells other stories and goes on to be part of yet more stories in the lives of many beings who interact with it. We are each a piece of fabric in a quilt of our congregation and of the larger community of the Unitarian Universalism. We light our chalice in honor of our individual service to this faith and our collective journey toward liberation for all. In the spirit of inclusivity and welcome, please take the next few moments to greet those around you. And remember that that quilt back there is a G-spin quilt. Opening words this morning. Look to this day, for it is life, very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and the realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. If you will rise in body or spirit, our opening hymn is number 100, I've Got Peace Like a River. Number 100.
Doing all verses?
All verses?
So
Go
there-
for it.
So there's 6, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, why not? Ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. Tears like raindrops in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. Please be seated. Our church is supported by those who call our church home and who support the efforts of our church to change our world for the better. If this is your first time with us, please let the plate pass. We're just glad you're here. We share our cash plate every Sunday with organizations whose work reflects our UU values to care for marginalized persons, advocate for real and systematic change, defend our environment, and promote justice and equity for all. This month's Share the Plate partner is Temporary Emergency Services. Our offering will now be taken. when we gather in loving community, we remember that we do not travel this earth alone. We share our lives as we light candles and hold each other in meditative thought. We invite you to come forward and light a candle from the common flame. State your name and let us know what your joy or concern is. Please come forward. I'm going to start off by lighting a virtual candle and saying, we had a great time yesterday out at the sailing club and tried some chicken hot dogs. They were pretty good.
I'm Ron Buda.
Some of you may have noticed that in the news yesterday that a well-known Tuscaloosa doctor passed away. His name was Dr. Ramesh Paransetti, and I'm saying he's relevant to me because he was first noticed that I had Parkinson's.
We also have today our youngest daughter. It's her birthday today. And she's up in Chicago touring around with a friend. She's 27. And this is breaking our hearts, but she's going to take a job in St. Louis. So an old school friend of hers lives up there, and she has a very small circle of people that she likes to be with. And so the friend lives in St. Louis, and the friend's family, they're all up there. So she's heading up there probably middle of September. So.
My name is Martin Baker, and I suppose we have really two joys. We have a number of joys, but these two. So we spent the last, a week, basically finishing Tuesday, babysitting our 5-year-old granddaughter, whose parents went away up to see fish, and let's just say that this was a milestone because it's the first time that the child has ever been away from her parents. Her parents have been away, both of them, overnight, 5 years old. We survived being locked in, which is apparently what they needed, her parents needed to feel reassured that nothing bad would happen. And then the other thing was, as we were coming back on Wednesday night so I could teach on Thursday, we roll up, about 100 yards from our house, and we start listing all the things that could be wrong, could have gone wrong in the 6 weeks we'd been away. And the great news is that none of them happened.
All right, Declan, you're up. How about where people can see you?
I have my first wobbling tooth.
What else is happening this week?
And this week I'm going to start soccer.
Hello, I'm Mary Reese Freeman. Thank goodness I don't have a wobbly tooth. And also, just for Mary Weeks, I made those apple pie muffins today, so they're back there. The other is a concern of mine about the upcoming election. I posted on Facebook a few days ago that I think we all need to do more about the election in trying to help undecideds become decided, to really not be blindsided like we were 8 years ago. I think we all need to put effort forward in a respectful and polite way, which is going high, not low, which is difficult for me at times, and try to address the things that are not true. Anyway, have a great week.
Hi, I'm Shampa Dara, and I'd just like to repeat uh, the name of the doctor who died. His name is Dr. Param Sethi, and he was the doctor who he set up the Crimson Urgent Care, I think. And now there's a road, in between 15th Street and 13th Street East. That road is named after him. It's called Param Sethi Drive.
So Mary reminded me of a pleasure. My granddaughter is a Gen Z, and the first thing that she did when she turned 18 was to register to vote before anything. And so I talked to her last night, and she said, she lives in Chattanooga now. And she told me that she already has changed her address on her license so that she can vote. And this is a Gen Z vote, which is brand new, so my family is adding to the votes.
So I'm Crystal Veroni, and I would like to share some joys. So first of all, when I came back from all these travels, and I'm thinking about all the burdens of getting my classes ready, I was able to go to Kiki's gallery showing, and it was so inspiring. I took pictures and brought them back to my youngest, who's an artist, and she loved them. Thank you so much for that. I have two more joys. First is my daughter, who just returned to UMaine, found out that she will have a position on a research project, a science research project, and this has been like one of the things that she's really trying to accomplish while she's there. So that feels like a huge relief. And then the last joy is that my youngest daughter, who's 17, she turns 18 next month, has grown so much over the summer. She's gotten her driver's license. She's now taking herself reliably to and from school. And she still comes in on time for curfew. I'm so proud of her. So that's my other joy.
And I light a virtual last candle for all those joys and concerns that are heavy on our heart. Please know that we are thinking about you. All right. Now, if you haven't figured out, we're doing our service from here today, so we won't be joining Birmingham. So I'm going to do the meditation moment. This morning, our meditation was written by Reverend Maureen Killeron. Here is where it all begins. It cannot be otherwise. Here, we have come to listen. We have come to hear. An old woman sat here yesterday on a park bench, a brown bag at her side, her eyes sparkling as children frolicked on the carousel. "Nice day," I said. "You're right," she said, and smiled. We built a bridge and sat there silently. And a policeman came, took the brown bag, led the woman away. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. And the world moved on. and pain and joy were strangers once again. And yet here, in the moment of connection, is where it all begins. It cannot be otherwise. The city's named and nameless stories are what we are to hear. Someone's child is hungry. Someone has lost a job. Someone's marriage hurts so much there are no words. Someone needs a friend. The stories come. Oh, pray that we may hear and we may tell. Pray that we may bridge city streets with caring, that we may give and receive the blessing of love. Let's take a moment of silence. Amen and blessed be. And do we have a story for all ages? Well, come on up here for a story for all ages then.
Can't be beat, so where the wild things are. I think some of us, our teachers, can relate to this a lot right now. Absolutely. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another. Poor dog. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. That very night in Max's room, a forest grew. And grew. And grew until the ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world all around. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through night and day. Look, it even has his name on it. And in and out of weeks and almost over a year to where the wild things are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars, and they gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. I'd be scared. What about you guys? No, you'd be okay. You'd be like Max. Till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with the magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all. And made him king of all wild things. "And now," cried Max, "let the wild rumpus start." Kind of like a party. So we're dancing, swinging from vines and trees, carrying him around. "Now stop," said Max, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then all around, from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of the wild, where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." But Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. And sailed back over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day. He's probably pretty hungry now. And into the night of his very own room where he found his supper waiting for him. and it was still hot. Oh, thank you.
Well, we have a special speaker this morning. He asked me to tell you that he was held hostage to be the board president this year. I want to assure you that didn't happen. So I'd like to invite Steve up here. He's going to give us a State of the Congregation talk.
Thank you. It could happen to you, so be careful. The State of the Church message is a relatively new tradition for us, I believe. It's something that our sister congregation in Birmingham does, and I need to ask somebody how long they've done that. And as a practical matter, Julie takes off for this Sunday anyway for that occasion, so we have a free Sunday in which to do it. But I think the more I think about it, the more I think it really is a good idea, maybe something we should have been doing for quite some time. You know, we have an annual congregation meeting in late April, but that's not always the best time to do a lot of kind of sober reflection on where we've been and dreaming about where we're going to go, because there's actual business to be done. You have to approve the budget, you've got resolutions to be debated and voted on. It's kind of overwhelming, especially for relatively new people. It's kind of overwhelming and exhausting. Plus, it happens after church, which means that people are kind of tired and cranky by the end and really ready to go home. So, as I speak to you today, I'm happy to report that in every objective way that I can think of, the state of our congregation is as strong as I can remember it being in the last 5 or 6 years. Just by way of introduction, I've been affiliated on and off with this congregation for over 20 years. I started going because a friend of mine, Richard Keenum, who many of you remember, who's now unfortunately gone from us, was very enthusiastic about it. He was like the most open-minded individual you could possibly meet. And as soon as I found out about UCT, I said, this is going to be the perfect church for Richard. But it ended up being the perfect church for me as well. But anyway, so in my time perspective, I can't remember a time when there was so much kind of open optimism about the future of the church. As some of you know, during and after the pandemic, we had a long and very divisive discussion, frankly, of whether we should sell our building and look for a new location, both for financial reasons and also for reasons of possibly being in a more central Tuscaloosa location for the purpose of drawing attention to ourselves and attracting members. I was not on the board at this time and was not as involved in the life of a congregation as I should or maybe might have been. What I do know and can tell you, there were very good intentions and very strong feelings on all sides of this issue. It was very difficult to see people that I know, love, and respect, and all of whom loved UUCT, disagree so vehemently about this, some to the point of sadly deciding to leave our community. But our reduction in membership that happened around the time of the pandemic was not the only reason. I mean, the debate over what to do about the future of this building was not, the only reason that we lost membership. Pandemic itself, was damaging to just about every church. Some of it was just the natural passage of time. As members age, develop health issues. We are also, of course, a church in a college town, and I know from being a member of 2 different congregations in Tuscaloosa that in the academic world, people are always leaving. People are always coming, but they're always leaving as well. People are graduating. Faculty members take new positions at other places. Sadly, some people lose their positions. And anyway, that's something that's probably unique to a college town. I grieve the loss of these longtime members of the church, for whatever reason, they felt they had to go, but we should all be extremely grateful to them. They put a lot of work and love and resources into this church, many of them for a very long time. So even if you didn't know any of those folks, you should be very grateful for them, for their how much, because we wouldn't be here at all if not for them, and we really stand on their shoulders. But the really, really good news is that we have had greater membership growth within the past year and a half than I've ever seen in my 20-plus years of being associated with this church. Thank you. Feel free. Since Bobby Freeman gave an address a year ago, we've had 9 people join the church. And if you cheat a little bit and count a couple of weeks before he gave this address, we have Crystal, so that gives us 10. Anyway, and 4 have joined just since July 1st when I became president. Like all good politicians, I'm going to take credit for all 4 of those members. Seriously, you guys, and particularly last year's board, deserve a tremendous amount of credit for drawing these people to us. And given the state and national political situation and the continued growth of Tuscaloosa as a community and the beginning of the new academic year, there will be more visitors coming who will give us a serious look. Also, within the last year, actually the last couple of years, led by, and again, part of me wants to name individual people, but part of me doesn't want to for fear of leaving somebody out. Again, there's a lot of credit to go around. Led by folks like Anna and Susan McKee, this church has had an explosion in member activity and social gatherings in the last 2 years. This includes our CUPS group, dinners out, reading clubs, reading groups, our meditation group, which I should give more attention to because that's been a part of our church for quite a while. Lynn Snow deserves a lot of credit for leading that group. And the new Green Sanctuary group that's trying to help us be true to our green principles. A lot happens connected to this church outside the 10 to 11 o'clock hour. And I was going to call that sort of extracurricular activities, but they are just as much a part of the church, the life of the church, as worship services are. So, this church is vibrant in a way that it hasn't been in a very long time. Financially, however, we are still in a very tight spot. Some of the people who have left us in recent years contributed substantial amounts to our church, both in terms of money and resources, but also their time. And even record membership growth can't fill that void overnight. We don't have any staff. We don't have resources for a hired cleaning service. We don't have paid staff to do maintenance. If not for Bobby Freeman, I really don't know what we would do. He has made maintaining this building a personal mission and almost a religious quest. So I'm really in awe of him, particularly because as your new president, I lack the very kind of skills that he has. The only reason I'm a homeowner is because Richard had a 140-pound German Shepherd. And it's very hard to get landlords to look kindly on 140-pound German Shepherds. Anyway, especially anywhere close to town. So that's the reason, and I'm not a very good homeowner, and I have no home maintenance skills, and there's always other priorities that are more interesting. Whatever, we should be very grateful that we have people in this congregation who are willing to keep up with that stuff, and we're always looking for more. The paid staff we do have work for very low compensation, given the tremendous gifts they give to us. I don't have to tell you about Ken, since you've just heard some of his talents. One person we do need to single out, who has also been very responsible for some of the membership growth, is Debbie Carden. If you look up the word godsend in the dictionary, you'll see her picture next to it. Because I know, I've seen at other churches that, when you attract children, you attract parents and friends of children, and it's just such a wonderful blessing to have all this useful activity around us, because there was a long time when there was hardly any of it. So, it goes without saying, given how short we are on resources, that anything any of you can do, if you miss the pledge period, now wouldn't be a bad time to make a pledge. If you pledged and for whatever reason find yourself fortunate enough to increase your pledge, I know I don't have to ask you to do these things, but I just want to make it clear that even though, we're kind of out of the woods in terms of membership, we are definitely not out of the woods in terms of resources. One thing we're going to be looking into, I'll mention that later. Let me start by saying, before I start talking about more specifics, as you know, when the real president gives his or her State of the Union speech, it's a combination of talking about where we've been over the past year and things we've accomplished, and talking about our dreams and visions for the future. But the real president doesn't put together the State of the Union speech all by himself. Almost a year before the speech is written, every department and agency in the federal government is tasked with coming up with ideas and suggestions for next year's speech. And this is literally a year-long process. And then at some point, some senior staff get together and put together all these suggestions and ideas. And a lot of the bureaucrats eagerly await by the TV every year to see if their, 5-second idea is going to be part of the speech. So what I decided to do is ask each of our pillars and our committees and our board members and other congregation members, what are your ideas for the coming year? What are your goals for the coming year? Trying to focus everybody on one goal, but that turned out to be impossible. We all have a lot of goals for the coming year. But anyway, I'm just going to give you the highlights of what they come up with. And for each of these, whatever the goal is, we're going to need your help in achieving that goal. So if there's anything that particularly interests you, please reach out, to the names on the back of your order or service. The names are also on the virtual order service, right? So you get to see, the outside of the order service as well. Okay, so reach out to one of those people and ask how you can help. Okay, let's start with our Actions for a Better World pillar, which was formerly known as social justice. But it's still, it's still their mission. They said that their goal is to host a local social justice-related speaker in the pulpit at least once every 3 months. And there's plenty of, people in our community that we need to hear from in terms of needs they can tell us about and things they're doing for the community. They also mentioned the goal of having UUCT either sponsor or co-sponsor a social justice-related event, rally, meeting, conference, at least twice a year. Well, they set the bar for themselves pretty low because they've actually already accomplished that. We've had both the event at the Weaver Bolden, well, they haven't quite accomplished it yet, but we've already had the Weaver Bolden event that Monty helped to organize, which went wonderfully. And also we have upcoming Druid City Pride. What day is that? October 5th, and we are a co-sponsor of that, right? And we have been right from the very beginning. Okay. So anyway, a lot going on there. Deb Crocker, who also deserves thanks for her tireless work on our church's finances, her goal, it's not just her goal, but the whole finance team's goal, is to obviously increase our resources, not just by raising more money, but also finding better ways to invest our reserve funds, which she's already done. And Deb is just tireless at coming up with ways, to cut costs. And each one taken by itself may not seem like much, but as you know from your household budgets, it really makes a big difference. She has really gone above and beyond to do that, and she will continue to do that during the coming year. A building community has set the goal of increasing our membership by 13. Now, they stated this goal right before we picked up 4 new members. Anyway, but based on our track record, I'm not surprised if we're going to do it. But of course, that means not just there's a lot of work and effort and goodwill that goes toward attracting and retaining new members. And you all have done just a fantastic job of making new people, feel both welcome but also not overwhelmed or badgered. And that's, in any church, that's kind of a fine balance to try to overcome. But I will say there have been times, when through nobody's fault, we may not have seemed like the most open and friendly church, even though we are, always. And it's just little subtle things. And they're not things that people, force themselves to do. These are just natural things that you all do. And they're working extremely well. Our spiritual growth pillar, formerly known as worship, wants to increase the pool of people to serve as greeters and also to help plan our local worship activity. And in addition, one of the wonderful blessings of recent years has been our partnership with UU Birmingham and getting to benefit from the pastoral care and the wonderful sermons from Reverend Julie. And we probably didn't realize how much we missed her until she came back 2 weeks ago. And yeah, I missed the most recent one, but I heard it got rave reviews, and I know the one before that was wonderful. But it would be good to be able to let people know maybe a little more in advance what the topics of each message are going to be, whether it's coming from here, or coming from Birmingham, and to put that out on our website and social media. So we do need to do a better job of that because, again, that's another thing that attracts members. And I think it's also good for us as a congregation to be more plugged in to kind of the rhythms of the church year and the topics that we're going to be talking about. So that will be, but we definitely need help in sort of rejuvenating the spiritual growth pillar. Now, part of the jurisdiction includes, children's RE and supervising that, but we need some education ourselves, right? We don't know everything. And one thing about Unitarians, they realize there's always more spiritual growth you need to do. So that's something, that's a form of member care. I mean, member care can include taking food to somebody's house when they've been in the hospital or when someone has passed away. But it can also mean, enriching our souls with educational programming and discussions about spiritual matters. So that's something that we really will work on in the near future. One personal thing of mine, mainly because I have such trouble remembering them, is learning to become more familiar with the new ways in which the UU Church nationally has chosen to express its mission. I got finally, thanks to the Do Re Mi song, I finally got familiar with the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism, and they haven't gone away. They have just kind of morphed into something different by vote of the UU Association. And so we do need to have some educational programming, both so that we can learn more about what they mean, and also, again, as something that attracts potential members and new members. So that's something we hope to have, maybe some more signage as well as maybe a sermon or a group discussion about that. When it comes to building and operations, when I put the call out for goals, Bobby just kind of overwhelmed me with a highly detailed and highly ambitious year-long plan. And God love him, he's incredible. Okay, and these are things that he really, he feels personal responsibility for. We really appreciate all the people who've come out to help us on work days, both indoors and outdoors. We're going to have more of those in the future. One goal that we're exploring that we talked about and adopted at the congregational meeting, now that we've at least temporarily resolved to stay in this building, we were thinking about ways in which some of this property could be sold to both help reinforce our financial resources, You know, lots happened in 5 or 6 years. I think when we first explored selling the entire property, we were somewhat surprised and disappointed to realize that, you know, at that time, buyers weren't exactly lining up, and maybe it wasn't worth quite as much as we had hoped or thought. And we were also very surprised by how much it would cost to actually rent or build somewhere else. So that was all a surprise. But a lot's changed since then, especially in terms of local road construction, that maybe the part of our property that the building does not sit on is much more valuable than it might have seemed 4 or 5 years ago. So that's a process we're going to slowly and carefully start again to see how we may be able to use that property, you know, without damaging the integrity of our core property, to use that property for our financial benefit. So that's something we're going to be doing over the next year, and we will try to keep you posted on that. And if you have any questions about that, please reach out to a board member. You know, right now we're still in the very preliminary stages of that. A part of that might include, you know, paying for a survey of the property as preparation for perhaps putting it on the market. Another thing that Bobby's doing, along with the help of Karen Cronice, and Karen's another person who does a lot of the unglamorous work of the church. Karen is sort of the expert on kind of the schedule for kind of routine maintenance for the building and like where the supplies are, how often things need to be done. So what we're hoping to do is put together sort of an owner's manual for the building that will contain a comprehensive listing of the different tasks that need to be done, how often they need to be done. And the goal of that would be at some point that we could start, you know, spreading the work around in a rotating fashion, just like we already do for, you know, greeters and worship assistants and people bringing, you know, the coffee and cookies every week, so that, you know, it's not so much of a burden on a very small number of people, no matter how much, you know, they don't mind doing it. So hopefully that's something you'll see rolling out over the next year, is more solicitations for once every month, once every couple months, taking a turn at helping do some of the tasks to keep this building clean and safe and operable. So the larger the group of volunteers, of course, the less work that is for any one person. Anyway, it sounds cliched, but I'm going to close by saying a lot has been accomplished, but a lot remains to be done. You know, the growth in member numbers and also, even more importantly, probably member enthusiasm and willingness to work and willingness to be active causes us to be able to set our sights much higher than we could have ever imagined a couple of years ago. We really have rediscovered what our role is in the Tuscaloosa community as a source of hope, joy, companionship, and tolerance in a city and in a world that badly needs all of those, and we'll continue on that path in the future. Thank you. Yes, go ahead. Well, thank you.
I do have a couple of comments.
Sure.
I would like to say very, very special appreciation to our one-man youth director and Mary Lee. And there is our, I don't know if the correct word is IT. Yeah. IT person. That's amazing. But to everyone that you mentioned, they're wonderful.
And we're recruiting help in all those areas as well. Deborah would love to have actually both help, you know, keeping us connected to Birmingham and running the show technically, and also in the financial realm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I just would also like to say thanks to Anna for all the different ways that she inspires and holds things together, and all that she's done over the years.
Absolutely, yes. Okay. And again, I hope I don't disappoint you too much as president. But again, this has never been a top-down sort of congregation. This has always been bottom-up, and that's the way all healthy congregations are and should be. So I look forward to your helping us continue that in the future.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I
do want to mention that Reverend Julie is going to be here on the 8th of September. We'll be doing the water communion. It'll also be a potluck that day, so 8th of September. Yes? Oh.
Absolutely. It's where, if you went anywhere during the summer, even if it was like, McDonald's and Intersection, you have water that is somehow meaningful to you. And if you forget to bring water, you can have water that symbolizes other water. But we all bring waters from, lakes, rivers, other places we've been, and put them in a common pool. And to me, the most amazing thing about it is we have the water from past years, and it all gets mixed together.
It's frozen right now.
That's the most wonderful symbolism I could possibly imagine. To make people, memories of people who are no longer with us, things like that.
It's called, we usually call it ingathering, because in the past, a lot of Unitarian Universalist churches, especially those that started up in the New England area, would not have services during the summer. And so when they came back, they ingathered from the summer, and that's what became the ingathering ceremony, which is our water communion. But Reverend Julie will be here on the 8th. So, and I also want to tell you that I'm an introvert, so you're darn lucky. So let us rise in body and spirit to sing our hymn 305. 305 in the gray hymnal. Ooh, it's De Caloris. Are we going to sing the Spanish stuff? All right, we'll skip the Spanish at this point.
Doesn't have the Spanish at the end.
Yeah. We don't have to sing the last verse, the very last verse. All right.
So just 3 verses?
Just the 3 verses. Please be seated. Out of the dark, a shadow, then a spark. Out of the cloud, a silence, then a lark. Out of the heart, a rapture, and then a pain. Out of the dead, cold ashes, life again. Go in peace.
So to be inclusive, this is for everybody over 30.
Thank you, Ken. Go in peace. I believe we have some treats and some coffee back there.